Hey, so it's 1 o'clock. We're going to get started here. Again, my name is Joe Lynch, and I sell logistics. I represent a company called E.L. Hollingsworth. We're a trucking company up in Michigan. We have terminals all over the place. I also own the website, The Logistics of Logistics. It's a way for me to connect with people and do stuff like this with Lance. And really how this got started, this webinar, is a number of years back, I found myself after the automotive meltdown unemployed really for the first time in my life. Meaningful unemployment where it wasn't just, hey, I have a week off between jobs. I was seriously unemployed. And it was a horrible feeling. And I know some of you are looking for a job and maybe unemployed, and you know what a bad feeling that is. So wanted to do a webinar on how we might help each other get jobs. Fortunately for us, we all have LinkedIn, we all have each other, so maybe we can get going on that. But the best part of looking for a job was I did meet Lance, and Lance was very helpful. Very few recruiters take the time and spend any time with people who are just looking for jobs, so they represent and they're looking for jobs that they've been contracted to find. So Lance was one of the few who really took the time, and so when I came up with this idea to do a logistics webinar, I asked Lance and he jumped at it, and thank God, because he has a lot of knowledge to share. So before I turn it over to Lance, I want a few little housekeeping notes. You guys are all muted, but you can all use this chat function. And the reason we muted you is otherwise we'd hear barking dogs and rattling papers and all the other stuff that goes on in the background. We have a lot of people in the webinar. So just so I know that it works, can you guys all say hello in the chat function there? One other piece of housekeeping while you guys write that is Lance is going to make this presentation available, and then on top of that, we're recording this. So I will send you a link to the recording and the presentation afterwards. So if you want to take some notes, go ahead, but be aware you can check this out afterwards. So without further delay, I want to introduce Lance Christensen. Lance is the president of Drive Forward Solutions. Again, he's a top-notch logistics and transportation recruiter. And there's a lot of recruiters who come from a background in recruiting. Lance has owned a trucking company. He's managed trucking companies, and then he got into this business. So he's coming really with top-notch industry knowledge at an executive owner level, and now he owns his own recruiting business. So he truly knows what people are looking for, and he knows what works for helping people get jobs. So again, without further delay, Lance, take it away.
All righty. Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Who am I? I've been in the transportation industry for 22 years, and I have been lucky enough to be blessed with many, many opportunities to help people find jobs just like you. And I started out honestly as a truck driver. I worked my way up into a management role and continued to progress into more senior roles, and ended up as a business executive in a transportation company, and then eventually transitioned into owning my own transportation and logistics company. I chose to sell that particular company and pursue early retirement, and then I came upon an opportunity to work in a management role for actually one of my vendors. When I was in my transportation company, I used a transportation recruiting and staffing company to provide myself with supervisors and drivers, and I chose to join that firm and open them up into a new market. I was living in Central Florida at the time. Oddly enough, with my transportation background as an owner and as a truck driver and dispatcher and all the different things, so the titles that I had held, I fit real well into the recruiting and staffing industry. I was able to speak with the people in the language that they needed to hear, and a lot of the trucking company owners and logistics company owners really kind of understood that I got them, and that led to my success in that industry. I ended up in 2007, I was in charge of sales for Adecco Transportation. Many people don't know about Adecco. We've got somebody from Brazil. Adecco's even down in Brazil. They are the world's largest staffing and recruiting solutions company. and I was in charge of their sales for the entire United States for their transportation division. I chose to leave that to join a couple of different startups, and now I am starting up my own company that competes in that sector. Right now, we are focusing heavily on, well, in it backpedal a little bit. The transportation industry has never utilized technology when it comes to recruiting up until recently. And the recruiting industry uses a lot of tools that need to be retooled to go into transportation. My company uses those tools for transportation. We've custom built a lot of different things to really be able to manage talent within this vertical. And that's basically just what my company does. We help talent in the transportation and logistics company find jobs, and we find transportation and logistics companies that are struggling to recruit. And we put the two together. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about you guys and gals. So the transportation industry.
One thing, Lance, before you get too far, can you guys hear Lance okay? I can hear him loud and clear, but I want to make sure everyone else can. Okay, we're getting lots of yeses. Okay, let's carry on. And again, guys, if you have questions for Lance, please put them in the chat feature and he will answer them.
As best I can.
Back to them.
So the transportation logistics industry is booming. We all see it. The economies in many countries, and particularly the United States, is taking off and trying to right itself back to where it was, being a large consumer. Down in Brazil, we got somebody down in Brazil. Brazil's got another very, very hopping economy. So with that being said, when economies are booming, transportation and logistics booms. So how do we find a job? If we're already in that industry, for wanting to get into that industry, what's the next step? Where do you start? Well, with most job searches, everybody uses the internet. It's a great tool. All you have to do is get online and start searching on something like Google. We've got Google here. Somebody just types in logistics jobs, and what do you get? If you look carefully on the screen there, you see about 131 million results. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't particularly want to go through 131 million results to try to find a job. There's countless websites, and in particular, when you're doing search engines, because of wonderful search engine optimization, you are directed towards those who understand it best. Unfortunately, those tend to be the companies with the larger budgets and the manpower to direct you to their sites. Unfortunately, there's plenty of really great jobs out there that do not understand, the companies do not understand search engine optimization, and they're lucky to even understand Google. But still, they're logistics companies that you want to work for, and you'll never find them online. So this, wrong, not a good choice for starting your career search. And why is that not a good choice? It's very time consuming. Now, obviously, with 131 million results, you're going to be hopping from site to site to site and not necessarily finding what you're looking for. It's not focused. You're just flying blind. You're not able to really focus unless you understand Boolean search technology. And that's a whole other animal. You're not going to be able to find exactly what you're looking for. You're going to be trying to fit yourself into the available jobs that you find. And that is why it's opportunity dependent. What you find, you try to get yourself aligned with that position. If you don't have the skills or the abilities, people tend to embellish their resumes and embellish their cover letters to try to fit into opportunities really that are just not for them in their desperation to find a job. So it's very opportunity dependent. And, of course, there's too much competition. Everybody's online. Searching on Google and searching on different websites, easiest way to locate jobs that are out there. But everybody's doing it. So how do you compete? Not very easy. If it's yielding 131 million results, there's probably an equal amount of people looking for those jobs. I don't want to compete against 131 million people. And there's no control. You're not controlling this search. You're only applying towards available jobs. You're not at the wheel. You're at the mercy of the jobs that are available. I don't know about you, but when I'm trying to manage my career, I don't want to leave it to a search engine. I don't want to leave it to Monster. I don't want to leave it to Career Builder. I want to have some sort of say in who I work for and what companies I'm entertaining for putting my time and investing my time and resources. I don't think we need to say more. We kind of understand that the internet is probably not the best choice. Let's try again. Where do you start? How about the old tried and true method before the internet, pounding the pavement? We could drive around in areas where we want to work and try to find help wanted signs. We could talk to our friends and our cousins and nephews and neighbors and try to find jobs that are hiring. But that is even worse than using the internet. Wrong. Same reasons. It's not focused. It's very, very time consuming. It's even more time consuming than the internet. Again, it's opportunity dependent. You're only able to apply for and be considered for jobs that you uncover. Again, there's too much competition. If somebody heard about it, you heard about it, all the signs on the street, everybody's in there applying. And you have no control. Again, you're at the mercy of the opportunities that are available to you. We want to teach you how to find new opportunities and uncover your own opportunities. So, well then, where? Where do we look? How do we start a career search? How do we find that next logistics job that we're looking for? I have a concept that's called marketable commonalities. And whenever I talk to somebody about finding a job, I tell them to look for their marketable commonalities, and that's where you start. Does anybody want to take a guess what a marketable commonality is? See how fast people can type.
I know what marketable means. It means somebody wants what I have.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And commonalities, you can kind of elaborate on that. It's something that is in common.
Yep. Yes,
there you go, skill sets. Your skill sets, if they're marketable, are marketable commonalities.
Yep. And there's the knowledge, skills, and abilities.
Excellent. What are marketable commonalities? Commonality, noun, sharing of features or characteristics in common. Marketable, Joe already mentioned that. Something that has value to somebody. So finding your commonalities. First, sit down and really think about or talk about with somebody you trust what you're good at and what you're recognized for. If you're already in logistics, I'm sure you have some skill sets that you're utilizing, and you've had a supervisor, you've had a manager, an executive tell you, hey, you're really good at that. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be working. So if you're currently working, look at what it is that you're doing that gets you noticed and what your strengths are. Are you good at dispatching? Are you good at paperwork? Are you good at customs? Are you good at managing a warehouse and pick and pack facilities? What is it that you're really good at? And what do you get recognized for? Then you look at what you enjoy and what you're motivated by. Why this? I mean, if you're looking at a long-term career, nobody wants to go to work every day and do things that they don't enjoy. So if you're looking long-term, you really have to consider what you enjoy and what motivates you and what just is your thing. So you look at that overlap there, you've started to create the first commonality. Things that you're good at and you're recognized for, but you also enjoy and are motivated by.
Yeah, it's been my experience, Lynch, that you typically aren't going to be very good at something you don't enjoy at least a little bit. And also, if you're really good at something, you typically start to enjoy it a little bit because you're getting the results.
Exactly. People always say that you don't feel like you're working if you're doing what you enjoy. And I personally would like to go to work and not feel that I'm working. Last thing you do is what your ideal employer is looking for. There's companies out there that you want to work for. There's organizations that you aspire to work for. Either it's an industry or it's a particular specialty company that you want to work for. It could be vague, it could be narrow, but everybody has an ideal employer. Some people hone it in at the point where they know the exact specific company they want to work for. But you get these three circles, and they overlap, and all those overlaps are commonalities. Let's look at it a little bit deeper. Does anybody want to take a guess, a good name for this one? What is a commonality that is something that you enjoy and are motivated by, and that an ideal employer is looking for, but you are not necessarily good at? I call this one Fantasyland commonalities. These are things that, you're professional football player for Joe, NBA player for me. It'd be great for me to have a job as a professional NBA player, but honestly, I'm not good at it. So that's a Fantasyland commonality. Let's look at another one. Take a guess at what this one is over here. Something that you're really, really good at. You just don't enjoy at all. But your employer recognizes you and is looking for that, and that is a skill and talent that they're really looking for.
It's a job
that one. That one I call the burnout commonalities. That's your postal working. That's your coming to the work wearing fatigues and carrying a gym bag because you just can't stand being there anymore. And your employer's sucking the life out of you because they need you to work hard, and you just hate being there. That's probably not a commonality you want to look for. And this one up here, something that you're really, really good at, you're really, really motivated by, you enjoy, people recognize you for this, but no employer is looking for it. This is the best one of all.
Starving artist.
Now this one's the living in your parents' basement playing video games commonality. This is one we definitely don't want to focus our job search on. Yes, you may be good at surfing the internet. You may be good at playing golf. But if there are no employers looking for golf in the logistics industry, you're probably not going to get employed focusing on that commonality. That sweet spot right there in the middle, that's what we're looking for. That is your marketable commonalities. Things that you're good at, that you enjoy, that employers are looking for. And it can be as highly specialized as you want it to be. The more specialized, the better. If you're CFO quality and you just understand numbers better than anybody else on earth, that's what you should be telling everybody that you are, and that's how you should present yourself. That's your marketable commonality. If you're a hands-on person that just gets operations and you can walk into a 3PL facility and say, wow, you need to fix this. You need to reconfigure your warehouse for first in, first out. The whole concept first in, first out, it's very, very common now, but I could go back 20 years ago and say that it was not common then. I remember taking over a warehouse and all their materials were spread out by product type and by vendor type, not by first in, first out. And it drove me crazy because we had forklifts running all over the place, running product, burning up propane, and taking forever to load trucks and pull orders. It didn't make any sense to me at all. I completely reconfigured that warehouse so that the products that needed to go out more often and came in more often were located where they needed to move. And the stuff that sat was in the back corner. And I didn't care which vendor it was from, which product it was. We just assigned the locations where they needed to be. But that would have been a marketable commonality. I was able to go in there and assess an operations issue and fix it. If you're good at that, that's your marketable commonality, and you enjoy it. I enjoy fixing things. Okay, so you have marketable commonalities. Now what do? You take 3 more steps. You refine your marketable commonalities is the first step. Now, I recommend that you learn all about the positions and employers that are associated with your marketable commonalities. If you're really good at customs paperwork, then you obviously need to be with a logistics company that deals with a lot of international shipping. If you're really good at operations in a 3PL, then obviously you want to be looking at companies and positions that is their primary focus. If you're into transportation or safety, likewise, that's what you should be looking for. So you learn all about those positions and all the employers that are associated with those positions. Those are your target employers and your target positions. And that's what you need to be focusing your efforts towards. Cast your net accordingly. Next, you should be honing your common skills and abilities and obtain new ones that are complementary or in demand. You know the positions, you know the companies, you know what they're looking for. So if there's skills that you don't have that are in those job positions, you got to work towards those. You got to find ways in your current job to learn those new skills or transfer within the company that you're at right now to kind of learn those new skills. There's also all kinds of industry training and seminars and events that go on in pretty much every major city that you can jump in on and learn new skills and speak with the right people to learn what you need to learn.
Yeah, Lance, I'll just jump in here. It was recommended to me by a good friend that I should start my own blog, really with the idea that I enjoyed giving presentations and I enjoyed writing here and there, not all the time, but and it was a nice complementary skill set to selling logistics because it's a good way to connect with people. I connected with a lot of the people here in this webinar because of that blog, and it's been a great opportunity for me. And again, it's honing that skill and adding to what I have to offer the market.
That's a perfect example of honing a complementary skill. Excellent, Joe.
You guys got any questions? Again, feel free to put them in the chat function.
And of course, pursue additional education and certification if necessary. If you've got a highly skilled position that you're looking for and you don't have the necessary certification, pursue it. IT people do it all the time. If they're looking for a Python developer at the company that you want to work for and you don't have Python skills, you go learn them. It's all about making yourself marketable. Concentrate on becoming the expert. Whatever it is that you have determined your marketable commonalities, you've got your target position, you need to be an expert in that. And all your efforts should prove that you are trying to concentrate on that and that you're trying to establish yourself as an expert. Joe talked about writing the blog. That's something that Joe picked, something that he wants to work towards, and he got out there and he did it, and he's done it time and time again, and now he's, many would say that he's an expert at it now.
Others would say I just exposed my ignorance.
You're a humble guy. You would say that you're not. Okay, step number 2, brand yourself with your marketable commonalities. Everybody talks about branding. I mean, Starbucks, McDonald's, Burger King, AT&T, Disney, they're all brands. And they work their business to brand themselves and drive that brand to the consumer. In this particular case, you're branding yourself. You want people to know who you are and be recognized for who you are and what you do. But the people you want to recognize that aren't just your prospective employers and the decision makers, you want everybody to know who you are and what it is that you do. I mean, you go to church or you go to different social functions, and a lot of times somebody asks what you do. You should always tell them, or start the conversation that find out what they're currently doing and what their specialty is, and then share yours. You never know. Marketing yourself and branding yourself, very, very important. So part one of branding yourself, obviously your resume. I see lots and lots of resumes. Over the years, I've seen countless resumes. Sadly enough, I've sometimes seen multiple resumes from the same person, and they don't even look like the same person because they were trying to apply for multiple positions, and they tailored their resumes accordingly. Has anybody ever been told to write a resume for each individual job that they're looking for, or each type of job that they're looking for?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh.
You know, it's funny you should say that, Lance, because I've been a project manager a lot in the past, and I've also done business development. And so what you end up with is if somebody's looking for a business development guy and it seems like there's too much project management, those all become account management jobs.
Oh. Don't do that. Whatever you do, do not change your resume. Put on your resume and build your resume to represent your brand. If you cast that net too much and you brand yourself with multiple brands, you lose focus. Bad recruiters will tell you to change your resume. Never change your resume. Build a good, solid resume that focuses on your marketable commonalities. If you want to tailor something towards that job, that is done in the cover letter. And that's the only place that should be done. I'm sure I will get some pushback from this from specialists. You'll talk to some recruiting expert and they'll tell you otherwise. From a executive standpoint, from the real decision makers, changing a resume will fool a recruiter. It will not fool an executive. It will not fool the ultimate decision maker. Troy's asking to please elaborate.
No, I was asking Troy, please elaborate. Because Troy, you made a comment here that says, yes, but I'm not doing it to make the decision maker think.
Yeah.
So if you could elaborate on that. We had another question here while Troy rewrites that. Tracy has a question. What is the best format for a logistics resume? Bullet, summary, or et cetera? Is that something you're going to cover later, or is that
in logistics? I'm not covering that later, but the whole webinar could be done on the resumes. My recommendation is to Google and get resume tips. But the one thing that's going to surface is they're going to tell you to tailor your resume, and I cannot emphasize enough, do not do that. Paragraphs versus bullets. Bullets are great. Don't overwhelm your resume with too many bullets. Bullets make it so that the person screening your resume can see what it is you want to focus on. So when you put those bullets on there, they should be things that distinguish you as an applicant. Highly evolved skills, achievements, things that make you different from everybody else. Those are your bullet points. Too many people put bland skills and not important skills on bullets. If you're applying for a logistics position in a senior level position in a warehouse, going to be managing a pick and pack warehouse, they really don't want to know that you understand shipping and receiving. If your resume says that you've been managing 3PL warehouses in the past, I'm sure you understand shipping and receiving. That does not need to be a bullet. It might come up in the interview. The bullet should be particular types of software you've used or particular challenges that you've had in different jobs. Managing warehouses, conversions and restructurings and moves and things that really distinguish you as somebody that company is going to be, wow, we're getting ready to do a big move, and I can see here on this person's resume by their bullet that they already moved a huge logistics company from one warehouse to a new facility, and they managed the whole thing and did it successfully, and so that's going to attract you. The fact that you've got shipping and receiving experience, not going to attract them.
Yeah. Troy asked a question there, Lance, and he says he's worn too many hats. He says, I'm seasoned 4 ways, international professional. And basically, with so many different professions, a lot of people, by the time you're a certain age, you have a lot of things you've done. And then, so I guess, what do you think of that? Because I go through the same thing. I worked in automotive for 25 years before I made the switch to logistics full time, even though I had done logistics because it's part of supply chain in automotive. I try to not play up the automotive piece too much unless I'm talking to an automotive employer where I can say, hey, look, I did that for a long time.
Yeah.
So is that just back to the marketable commonality?
Yeah, go back to the marketable commonalities. When you're using your marketable commonalities to determine job opportunities, employers that you want to work for, yeah, if you're somebody that's wore many hats, there could be different industries, there could be different jobs, there could be different specialities that you can work in and that you're capable of working in, and there might even be multiple ones that you enjoy working in. And that's not uncommon. I'm a man of many hats. Most of the people in my family are. I guess that really just comes down to your own personal interests and the availability of open positions, companies that are looking. If you've got 3 things that you really enjoy that drive your marketable commonalities into 3 different job descriptions, 3 different types of employers, pick the one that's really hiring a lot of people. And then money can be a motivating factor as well. If you're looking at 3 different industries or 3 different verticals, pick the one that's, if money's important to you, pick the one that's going to pay better, or pick the one that's going to be hiring more people. Your dwell time is going to be less. You're going to be making your search a little bit shorter by doing so. Does that help?
Yeah, that seemed to help. Lance, I'll just throw this out there. This is my own experiences. What has worked for me across many industries, I've worked in automotive, I worked in, which is engineering, a lot of product development, consulting, IT, and now in logistics, is the same skills, the same strengths that I had were in each one of those. So being good at communication or being good at strategy, good at, one thing. And so you start to realize as you move through your career, even though I was a good account manager, it wasn't that being a good account manager because it played to my strengths. We have another question here while you're answering. Is it relevant to keep internships on your resume if you have a real full-time job afterwards that's at a greater professional level?
It depends on how long ago. Go ahead. It would depend on how long ago that internship was. And how much of a work history you've got following that internship. The other thing that's kind of important is who that internship was with. Say you've been working for a company for 4 years and you've been pretty successful there, and prior to that you did a Disney internship. For some reason, many companies love Disney interns. I've had friends and family that have worked for the Mouse, and they really do train a lot of good people. So an internship there or an internship at a big global company, that'll probably stay on your resume a little bit longer. If it's an internship at an unknown company and you've worked for 4 years after it, that probably should be gone off your resume by now.
I've told my daughters who are college age, and I told them just list it as a job. You did work, whether it's an internship or not, who cares?
Yeah, it's another tactic you can take. Some recruiters will question that.
Yeah. Well, again, I think you can always voice it over and say, look, I did the work, whether you called me an intern, unpaid, paid, or over the summer, it was still work that I did.
If it can present marketable commonalities, again, if it can present marketable commonalities towards a decision maker, put it on there. It's not going to hurt anything. But if you're becoming one of those deals where you've got a resume that's got 4 pages on it, got to cut something. There's a rule of thumb that you should have 1 page for every umpteen years. I've heard 10, I've heard 5, I've heard 7. Ideally, you don't want to have a resume any longer than about 2 pages. I'm not going to throw out a resume because it's 2 pages and the person's only been working for 5 years. That's kind of silly. Some recruiters would, but the smart ones, the good ones, won't. And your resume should only include information that, again, touches on your marketable commonalities, that appeals towards your job search. Highlight your skills and abilities. Kind of touched on that. I'm reading notes. I probably shouldn't be reading your comments at the same time while I'm trying to narrate here. I was taught 2 pages with a third for your patents, articles, books, and honorary degrees. Yes. If you're somebody that's been published, you've got articles, you've got books, you've got honorary degrees, things that, again, if it's marketable commonalities, throw out those rules. If your resume is 5 pages long and it's all got marketable stuff in it, it's 5 pages long. Keep it. Nobody's going to throw it out. Plus, if you've got that many skills, the type of jobs that you're applying for and the people that are going to be doing the vetting process, they're not going to care how short your resume is or how long your resume is. If you're looking at entry-level positions, the recruiters that are looking to hire entry-level and mid-level, those type of rules are a little more important. But senior-level roles, if you're somebody that's got patents and publishing, there's really no rule for you. If it's valid information, keep it on there. For the purpose of your resume, again, highlight your skills and abilities. Must show how they were used successfully throughout your career. I cannot stand resumes, and every recruiter that I've had working for me, we just cannot stand resumes that aren't focused on how you've used those abilities. It's great that you're telling us you're a Python developer, or you're a commercial truck driver, or you are a logistics manager, or a specialist in import-export. You can list all the skills and all the certifications, but if you're listing your employer, not describing how you were successful with that employer in your role, we don't know who you are. We're just a blind person that's got skills. We want to know how you used those skills, how you made a difference, and why I should hire you. Does that make sense? Social media. Moved on from the resume over to social media. Everybody uses social media. I guarantee you, if you're going to a mid or a senior level interview, the person's Googled you. They've looked on LinkedIn. They've looked on Facebook. They're prepping themselves for you coming in. So your social media is going to be important. If you're out looking for work and you're wanting to change careers, your social media should highlight your marketable commonalities. It should always be professional. I don't know how many people have their settings set on Facebook that post things that are just the most inappropriate, unprofessional things imaginable, and they have a wide open, everybody in the public can see their Facebook page, and they're out looking for work. Not a good idea. If you want to restrict your Facebook page to personal use, And for friends and family, that's fine. Adjust your settings so only your friends and family can see that you were drinking last Friday and that you love the party. Your future employer does not want to see that. So adjust your settings on your social media to reflect your job search. You can use Facebook.
Is one of my marketable commonalities.
How do you highlight your marketable commonalities? Facebook. Talk about, Facebook, if you're going to use it professionally, it's not exactly LinkedIn, but you can use it professionally, and you can use it to kind of augment your job search. Let people know what you're doing, something that you did at work that made a difference. Those little blurbs that I said to put in your resume, like the logistics manager that specialized in moving. Right in the middle of that move, if he's knowing he's going to be looking for his next career, why wouldn't he post something on there saying, hey, we just got done moving a 250,000 square foot warehouse into a new 300,000 square foot location, and we did it over a weekend without any complications, and yay, my team is just fabulous. Now, something simple, something personal, kind of transcends that personal, professional, and it just gets it out there. Ideally, the prime outlet for social media is LinkedIn. Now, please, 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 do not ever use LinkedIn as Facebook. Those are two different animals. Facebook is more social. LinkedIn is professional. I see people talking on LinkedIn about what they were doing over the weekend and all their little personal things. LinkedIn is professional. If you want to chase off recruiters, use LinkedIn as a Facebook, and you will lose job opportunities accordingly. Your profile picture on LinkedIn. Again, Joe, I think we talked about this a couple days ago. There could be a whole webinar on LinkedIn, and maybe we'll have to do that. Profile picture. I don't want to see a guy in a muscle shirt posing at the beach as a profile picture on LinkedIn. That just does not appeal to me, does not say that he's professional, does not say that he's somebody I want to hire him. Your profile picture should be professional, it should be tasteful, it should represent yourself to a minimum of a C-level executive. And if you don't want your C-level executive to be looking at a picture of you in a tank top drinking a beer, then you probably shouldn't have it on your LinkedIn page. Twitter, another thing. A lot of people use Twitter to kind of let people know what they're doing, what they got going on. You can use that to bust out your marketable commonalities as well. Again, I digress back to that warehouse move. If you're somebody that regularly uses Twitter and you start to have a whole lot of followers, let people know what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with that. Just keep it short, keep it simple, and just keep it relevant. Don't be the person that tweets, I am going to the bathroom right now. I just ate a steak dinner. Boring, worthless things that have nothing to do with marketable commonalities. Yeah, you can tweet all you want, but if you're going to use it for your job search, keep it focused. And again, these different social media sites, I myself have a personal Facebook and I have a professional Facebook. I keep the two of them separate. My personal Facebook's on complete lockdown for friends and family, and my professional one I leave wide open for everybody to see.
Lance, I'll just point this out. On Twitter, there's a logistics guy, and he's very well thought of, and he put on Twitter not too long ago that his favorite team, I think it was a baseball game, lost, and he tweeted a few comments, and he lost a ton of people who were his people who followed him for logistics reasons. So basically, they didn't want to hear about Boston Red Sox.
Exactly. You got to keep it personal.
He said, "Wow, I lost a whole bunch of followers."
Keep your personal and your professional. In his particular case, he should have had two Twitters. Have a Twitter to your personal email. Have a Twitter to your professional email. Keep them separate. Tweet all you want professionally. Tweet all you want personally, but keep the two separate. If you're going to be using social media for a job search, for your career, don't mix it with your personal life. I can't emphasize that enough. Does everybody get that? I want to see some yeses.
Yeah, Lance, before we jump off this, could you touch briefly on a question that William had? He's changing from the military experience into civilian, so he was wondering how he changes the language up in his resume.
Oh, that's a tough one too, because I mean, the acronyms and terms that you use in the military don't translate well into the public sector. In your resume, focus on concepts and regular people language as much as you possibly can. But there are amazing things that I'm sure you did in the military, and you got to have some bullet points that touch on that in real people language. Because many Fortune 500 companies love hiring veterans, love hiring experienced military people. But it's hard for them when you mention a bunch of acronyms and a bunch of different phrases that most of us civilian folks just don't understand. It's hard
Lance,
for us.
one of the things, I'll just add to that. I saw a resume of a guy I met on LinkedIn, and he kind of translated his into, how many tons he was moving of product. I guess it was probably ammunition or guns or food or whatever, but he translated how many trucks he was moving, how many tons he was moving, and also how many people he managed. And I thought that was so much more relevant. And he had kind of stripped it down because he was looking to say, look, I want to go to somebody who's a high volume shipper, and they wouldn't care that he was stationed in Iraq or Iran. I mean, it's important, but or not Iran, Afghanistan. But they would want to know that he was in charge of a large group of people and that he knows how to move freight and obviously move it in a very difficult sector.
What's this? What about hiring by military logistics of people from the private sector? I'm not quite understanding that. Are you talking about military hiring private sector logistics folks? Yeah, I am not too sure that. I know there's military vendors that hire private sector. I mean, Halliburton is a military vendor, and they'll hire people to go out there. That's not my specialty, and I'm really could not quite go down that road. Government contractors, though, they love hiring private sector. You just have to be somebody that hard to describe. I know of I can't remember the name of the contractor, but one of the contractors here in Houston, I had a commercial truck driver that was wanting to work over with a different infrastructure company. And on his resume, he described what he did in detail. While he was in the military, his specialty was driving a lowboy tractor trailer underneath the protection of Marines to go and recover disabled armored vehicles, tanks, armored transport in enemy territory. And he described it very, very well. And oddly enough, his resume just resounded with 4, 5, 6 different job offers, all because he really kind of spelled out what he had done. In that particular case, he was an ex-military, but he was working for a government contractor that was being protected by Marines. Sorry for asking a unclear question, but I mean, maybe government contractors. Government contractors, there's just a ton of them. easiest way to get involved with that, you got to start contacting them, start talking to talent folks.
I'll just jump in. We talked about LinkedIn. I'm a big believer in, you find there's government contractors. You can start following them first off on LinkedIn, the companies themselves.
Exactly.
But you can also jump into, there's probably 20 groups that are focused on government contractors. Some are military contractors. Jump in those groups. See if you can't ask a few good questions. See what articles they're posting, and start getting involved that way. Not this current job I have.
We'll get there.
Yep.
Let's start moving through some slides, and I'll actually touch on that. References. Back to branding yourself. Try to obtain letters of recommendation, secure references that endorse your marketable commonalities. People that you've worked for, people that you've worked with, peers. I mean, if you're on LinkedIn, it's easy. It's just one of the easier things you can do. Just send a little message to somebody saying, hey, can you recommend me for this? Or can you write a reference letter and post it on here? Or past employers, circle back, contact them and see if they'll do something on LinkedIn. Sometimes they won't be willing to put it on paper, but they will be willing to do it through social media. Number 2, brand yourself with your marketable commonalities, part 2. Social media. Here we go. We were kind of talking about that a little bit just a second ago, Joe. Join groups and follow companies that are in your target industry or specialty. Boom. If you're looking at going into a military contractor, there you go. Follow companies that are specializing in that. Your Halliburtons, your BJ Services, your Blackhawk.
Yeah, another thing that's interesting about that, when you start following a company, let's just say it's Halliburton, and let's just say you have 500 connections on LinkedIn, what you'll notice right away is who in your network is also connected or following Halliburton. A lot of times it's employees, and it'll tell you who works there. And so it's so not only do you start following the company, but you say, oh, these 5 guys from my network are employees. Maybe they're second or third, but it's a quick connect to people who might be able to help you.
I will touch on that. I don't have it on a slide, but along those lines, always be looking at that feed. If you're on LinkedIn, look at that feed that says, recommended connections, people that you might know. Always look at those. Always try to connect with the ones that you feel relevant. Very, very important. And when you put in that request for them to connect with you, put a little something personal. Say, in this particular case, if you're looking at working for a military contractor overseas, put that in there. Say, hey, I just thought I wanted to connect with you and pick your brain a little bit and see if you could offer me some advice on connecting with a company that does military contracts overseas. Almost everybody on LinkedIn will respond to you if you word it in a way that's professional and not annoying. Never ask, I'll touch on this later, never ask for a job. Always ask for help. Joe emphasized that too, and when he told me about that, I said, that's spot on. You never want to appear desperate. You never want to be asking for a job. This is networking, not panhandling. Tweet, retweet, share, and comment on discussions or postings that reflect your specialty and display your marketable commonalities. Again, if you're looking at government contracts, find different discussions that are revolving around that. Get in there and start asking questions and commenting on it. Give yourself an opportunity to shine. Start a blog. Hi, Joe. Start a blog that lets you display your marketable commonalities. Now, there's a warning that goes with this one. You must have above average writing skills to do so. If you don't, get somebody to help you. The damage that you can do by writing a very poorly worded blog or a paper that is just filled with mistakes and errors and poor grammar, again, you will do worse for your reputation than you will do better. So have somebody proofread it. There's got to be somebody, if you're not so good on the grammar, have somebody that is good proofread it for you. Say, please look up your grammar teacher from back in school if it was 10, 15 years ago. Good luck with that. You'll probably find them on Facebook, though. Networking. Manage your professional network, visible or invisible. At this stage, you want it to be, for the most part, invisible. You're not actively really beating the doors down looking for work. You're establishing yourself as somebody that is a commodity, for lack of a better word, somebody that has value for an employer. And if you're just getting started in LinkedIn, you're just getting started on Twitter, you don't have a whole lot of material yet, you don't have a whole lot of connections yet, keep it invisible at first. Once you start getting some substance and some flavor to your campaign, then flip it over to visible. So you want people to look at you. And there's all kinds of different things that you can make visible and invisible. Your connections, early on in your stages, your connections should be, for the most part, invisible. Networking. Add professional connections that are in your industry, specialty, or your past employers, but not at your target employers. Now, the reason I say not at your target employers, again, you're building your brand and you're building your marketability. You don't want to just jump right out there when you're first learning things and first getting your feet wet. You don't want to go shoot yourself in the foot by contacting one of your target employers and appear unprofessional or not prepared for any consideration. So just hold off for now on any target employers for connecting through social media or networking directly with them. Wait until you've got your experience. Now, stage 3, you've kind of got yourself branded. You've got it good. People know who you are. You've told everybody that you are a specialist at something or that you are really the go-to person for a particular skill set. Social media. You continue doing the same things you did in step 2. You just get yourself out there. You keep it professional. I can scroll back and show it to you if you want. Join groups, follow companies that are in your target industry, tweet, retweet, all that different stuff. Work on your blog. Continue your social media campaign as part of selling your brand. Networking. Manage your professional network, visible or invisible. At this point, once you start to establish yourself, you want it visible. When you're employed and you're not searching for work, if you're happy where you're at, you're in your dream job, you're in your employer, flip it back to invisible. But if you're actively looking, keep a professional network visible so they know who you're connected with. Add professional connections at your target employers. Now is the time where you start focusing on the companies that you really want to work for. Start connecting with people. Only add peer level that are not within your specialty. Reason being, I digress. There's a geographic factor there too. Am I losing everybody on this? I know this is kind of a tough concept. Adding the connections at your target employers. If you're using LinkedIn and say you want to connect with somebody that is a documentation specialist for import-export, and that's what you want to do, you're not going to connect with fellows at the companies that you want to work with that are doing the exact same job that you want. They're not going to help you. If you're presenting yourself as an expert in what they're doing and you're connecting with the company that they're working at, you're a threat. Do not connect with them. But there is a geographic factor. If it's a company that you want to work with and they've got multiple locations, say you're in Los Angeles and you want to be the documentation specialist in Los Angeles, Connect with the one that's in Seattle, or connect with the one that's in the Bay Area, or Miami, or Houston, and pick their brain and say, hey, I love your company and really like to work with it. Wonder if there's any opportunities over in Los Angeles you can help me with. Continue to expand the rest of your professional network. Networking, I mean, this whole thing that we're talking about here is about networking and branding and getting yourself out in front of people. You constantly got to continue expanding your professional network, because eventually you're going to encounter the person that wants to hire you. And it's going to happen that, in most cases, you're going to be contacted by them when the time is right. They've got an opportunity. They know that you're the go-to person. They're going to call you. You're not going to have to chase them down and apply for a job. It's never going to get posted online on Monster. And they're just going to send you a quick little email that says, hey, I was wondering if you were interested in this position I have available. But that's all about networking. More networking, attending industry events, roundtables, gatherings. And if you're at one of those events, say you're, again, go back to the import-export documentation person. Maybe there's an import-export seminar on latest changes in customs paperwork. And you go there and you're networking with senior level folks. Try to not exceed, there's the 3-person rule, or rule of threes that networking people talk about. Do not exceed the 3 rule of threes. I put it down that the 3 strong connections an hour. Most networking events, you're going to be networking for approximately an hour. And I put down that don't exceed 3 in an hour. If you're at something that's an all-day event, obviously the rule of 3 is not going to apply. And you could probably connect with some more people.
You know, Lance, I'll add one thing to the networking thing. I have a good friend who is an excellent salesman. What he always does is before the conference, he gets his hands on information of who's going to be there. So if he knows that there's some people there that he wants to connect with, he'll send them an email ahead of time or call them and say, hey, you know, we've been talking online, or I've been wanting to meet you. We're both going to this event. Can we get together? And then rather than you kind of sifting through the crowd hoping to bump into the right people, you have a mission. You say, hey, look, I'm supposed to meet Tom Scott here. And now, obviously, there's an obligation and a little different situation when you get there. So just add that.
Exactly. Offer to meet before or after for Starbucks or something. And just always be flattering, always be professional, and again, don't beg for work. Selling your brand, part 2, social media. Continue with all the social media activities from part 1. Create a group on LinkedIn that is about your specialty or industry. You've got your feet wet, you know what you're doing. Now you're at the stage where you can create a group, say something like maybe the logistics of logistics. It's about your specialty or industry, or about your marketable commonalities. Invite everybody in your established network to join your group. By this stage, you've probably connected with anywhere from 200, 300, 400 people. Get them in your group. Get as many of them as you can. It's just another way to communicate with them and another way to share what you got going on. Start discussions in that group that display your marketable commonalities. It's one thing to create a group, but your group's got to have some sort of substance. It's got to have something that constantly tickles folks. And you, as the person creating the group, should always start discussions. And those discussions should be about something that's relevant. And always try to display your marketable commonalities. Invite connections personally to start discussions. You got 15, 20 people out of your network that joined your group. Send some of the more senior level people in that in your network that have joined your group. Say, hey, I was wondering, you're a HR professional with XYZ company. I was just wondering if you could write a brief little discussion about what's going on in hiring in logistics and transportation right now. Most people will say, sure. Joe asked me to join this thing, and I jumped right in and said, yeah, absolutely. I love helping people, and this is right up my alley. Most people will not turn you down as long as you're personal and you personally invite them. It's not a chain letter, and you keep it professional on the way that you communicate and the way that you ask. Networking. Continue with all the networking activities that you started in part one. Again, you're going to have all these slides to share at the end, so you can leaf back and go look at some of the things that we discussed. Your resume. Continually refine your resume to add relevant information. Things like starting your social media group, blogs, different things that have evolved since you first wrote your resume, things that have changed with you, accomplishments that you made. You got to put them in there. Nobody wants a stale resume. If all your little bullets that are displaying all the wonderful achievements that you had are all 10 years old, but you've done stuff in the last 6 months, it better be on your resume. Everybody wants to know that you've got great accomplishments then, but what have you done lately? Keep your resume timely. But don't write multiple resumes. Highlight your group and your blog after they're doing well. If you've got a blog and you've got one person following it and nobody's commenting on it, you probably don't want to put it on your resume.
Yeah, let me just add to that, Lance, you're also, if you don't want to take the time to start your own blog, you can always contribute articles to online magazines and other blogs. And then as soon as it's published, you're a published author at that point, or writer. And you can also put that article on your LinkedIn profile. So let's just say you say I'm an expert in this customs paperwork. You write an article that not much of the world's going to care about, but it might be the 7 keys to completing customs paperwork. You get it published somewhere, and then you put that link on your resume, and also on your LinkedIn profile. It shows that your area of interest. It's back to the marketable commonality.
Exactly. Now I've been at the disadvantage the last 10 or so years. I've been working for global companies that would not allow me to put anything that I've written or published referencing them, and there was rules that we had to follow on LinkedIn. So I was able to teach people how to use LinkedIn, but I myself kind of had to keep mine muted. But that all has changed now that I'm leading the company, and I can make the policy and make the determination myself. And I'm all about putting published papers online. So again, highlight your group or your blog only if they're successful. If you got 10 or 20 followers, that's fine. If you got one, not a good idea. Keep your primary focus on your marketable commonalities. Your resume should not deviate too far from what you're trying to achieve. Take your marketable commonalities and get them in front of somebody's eyes to read and to learn about you. That needs to be the focus of your resume. Don't drone on and on and on about something that doesn't matter. Keep it relevant. Again, the Internet's a wonderful thing for research. Google resume tips and see what the current trends are. Things have constantly changed. Everybody always used to say have a 2 to 3 page resume. Now it's a 2-page. Some people say 1 page. There's always something that's kind of relevant that's changing, and you can learn a lot of things just by Googling. Good old Google. But do not, I'm going to just flog this dead horse, do not write multiple resumes. And I'll share a little story there. Do not send your resume and apply multiple times to the same company over and over and over again, especially if you're going to be using multiple resumes. I've had multiple instances where somebody has applied for a sales position and applied for an operations position and applied for a dispatch position with 3 different resumes, completely different cover letters, and all I got from the person was maybe that they had either a borderline personality disorder or a split personality, because the communication they sent me was 3 different people with the same name, same address, same phone number. I was confused. Do not create multiple drafts for multiple opportunities. There we go. I just said it. Use the cover letters to personalize. If you want to communicate that, hey, I'm interested in this position and why, and what you would do to make yourself successful, put it in the cover letter. Opportunities. At this point, you can ask peers in the same specialty, different region, for advice. You can privately request suggestions from connections at target companies. Companies that you want to work for, get on it. Start contacting them. Say, hey, can you give me some advice on how to come work for your company? Or do you know of any openings that are in my specialty at your company? Apply to jobs online and in person, but don't hold your breath. If your dream job appears on Career Builder on Monster, by all means, apply. I'm not saying don't. But do not think that you're going to get hired. If you get hired, you won the lottery. Congratulations. We love you. Let us know that you won, and you're a very lucky individual. But that is just not the usual case. Towards the end here, in parting, I say just with all these different things, don't give up on it. This is a long cycle. This is something that generally, to get you up to speed from stage 1 to stage 3, can take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months before you really get rolling with this. And it's ideally for people that are not currently unemployed. If you're unemployed, you probably have to find something that's going to keep you moving. Try to keep it in the industry that you're in. Try to keep it in a position where you can hone your skills, where you can make yourself marketable for your next jump. So I understand that if you're unemployed, 6-month cycle, probably too long to get your dream job. But this is something that you do while you're working. It's perfectly fine. Stay on brand with your marketable commonalities. Do not give up on the marketable commonalities. Don't be afraid to ask for advice or assistance. Market yourself 24/7. Wherever you're at, whoever you're with, let them know who you are at all times. Never appear desperate. That's a biggie. In your communications, don't beg for jobs. Don't tell people that you're late on your rent and you need a job right this minute. Keep it professional. Never underestimate the power of networking. This whole thing's about networking. It's all about making the right connections and meeting the right people and presenting yourself as somebody that people want to hire. And that is just an amazing thing, and it needs to be done if you want to secure employment in the transportation and logistics industry. And finally, I know you were begging to get this last slide because it started to slow down here towards the end. I just want to thank you, and I'm sure Joe will want to thank you as well.
Yes.
If there's any
and
questions, beat them down.
So I'm going to ask a question, and maybe you could address that. And Lance, this was excellent, but maybe you could answer Simon's question about a company with their own logistics group.
Could you advise on applying for a logistics position to construction machinery manufacturer which owns logistics department? What about contacting people hired by my target employers? Establish your brand and establish your marketability before you contact employers. As for how you contact them, once you're established, you've got some decent connections that are within the industry but not at the employers you're wanting to work with, then turn around and contact that prospective employer. There's all kinds of different ways you can connect with them on LinkedIn. There's different ways you can connect with them personally too. Facebook, Twitter, just about every Twitter account. If you follow them, they will follow you. Just a word of advice there.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much, Lance, and thank all of you for coming to this webinar. Again, we will send the materials out, and we'll also send a recording out so you can reference this. And feel free, and appreciate all the thank yous. I just want to point this out. Lance is running a business, and he gets paid by filling jobs. He's looking for people, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's looking every day for 100 people to check his resume. Since we've begun this process, a lot of people will say, hey, you got a job, you got something for me. Just be respectful of his time, too. Lance has been super generous, and I know he probably will take on more than he should, but he's a busy man, so he doesn't necessarily have jobs for us all. But feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. I think I'm already connected to you, and I'm going to give your email addresses to Jeff, so if he has some marketing material, if he's collecting resumes, it'll give him a chance to do that too.
And also, everyone out there, the other thing that you can do besides connecting on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is just Joe and I have talked about it countless times offline, that LinkedIn is just an amazingly powerful tool that needs to be fully utilized. And I am more than game, and about another 2 months or so, let's put together maybe another one of these that focuses more in depth on LinkedIn. Anybody interested in that?
If we did one that was just focused on LinkedIn, we'll show of applause there. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting some yeses.
There is you got a note from Millard. Millard, to answer your question, Lance's focus is logistics and transportation and truck drivers. I guess that's
recruiting.
There's a lot of people who are supply chain recruiters who don't necessarily get into truck drivers or even to a lot of the lower level positions within warehousing and stuff, but I think Lance covers all that.
Yeah. My company's heavy into the truck drivers because of the driver shortage. It's where it's at, and we derive a lot of consulting along those lines.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much, and again, thank you, Lance. This was excellent. This is excellent information. Lots of thank yous. Appreciate everybody showing up. Again, connect with us on LinkedIn. I'm gonna try and connect with everyone who I'm not already connected to, and expect an email with this material. And thanks again.
I really enjoyed, and I look forward to meeting some of you again online. And if there is anything that I can do to help you, just reach out to me.
Okay. All right, guys. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks.